Easily man of the match for me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow Podcast, proudly sponsored by Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League Mini League. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free card, you'll get a limited card free to enter into your team too. So do it, get it ahead of Game Week 38. We're also now giving away weekly prizes such as limited cards, so jump on, have a go, and see what it's all about. The very best of luck, and don't forget the winner gets a pair of Premier League tickets for next season. Go ahead and join in the fun for absolutely free. On to FPL, and this is it, the finale, the end game. Adam, welcome back. And what colour was your arrow in double game week 37?
You can probably tell by my big smile that
big cheesy grin.
Arrow, cheesy grin. Yeah, I'm up to the highest position that I've been all season, which I think is the only way it could be better is if I do it next week. So maybe I've peaked too soon. Who knows? So yeah, I've got a green arrow. I think the hero for me, a couple. So I decided to rest Edison, just like Pep. And Everson came in and got a 9-pointer, which that is, brilliant. Take that. It's so
you started Everson, did you?
Well, I rested Edison is all I'm going to say. So and then, but I did actually start Trippier, so I can claim that one. I started Trippier over Isak. I think if I'd have, this is one where if I'd have had Wilson, I'd have started Wilson. So I think that's where it'd have probably evened up. Captain Haaland's probably a little bit unfortunate. I haven't seen. I think that goal probably should have stood, in my opinion. I don't think there was loads wrong with it.
Apparently, he was pulled first, which I didn't see, and then he kind of pulled him back. There was a bit of handbags on it, but
I didn't think there was much in it, and I didn't even think the Brighton player appealed too much.
I do think, though, if it was a goal against Aston Villa, potentially, Adam, you would be screaming, has to be a foul on Tyrone Mings.
But that's not a fair measure to use for this, because
and that's because Tyrone Mings will get nowhere near him.
I don't know. He's done all right against Haaland this season. But yeah, I think any touch on any Villa player on calling for a foul, so that's not a fair barometer. But yeah, it was fairly good. But coming into this game week, I must admit I'm a little bit puzzled as to what to do. I feel very reliant on getting team leaks like everyone else, and I hate being in that position because I think it's unfair for. It'll be unfair for a couple of reasons to the people that, for whatever time in the world they can't get the team leaks. But you're going to see things like the website crash as well, and I think that there's going to be some, there's going to be chaos, isn't there? So we shall see what happens, and I'm no doubt discuss our plans today.
Welcome back, Rich. What colour was your arrow in double game week 37?
Hello, Fergie. Yes, had a great week. Unbelievable roller coaster ride of a week, but I decided that I would take my Hail Mary in the double game week. So made the bold move of selling Marcus Rashford, which was very much an against the herd move. Sold Isak as well, but that was probably something loads of people did. But I bought in the two high upside City assets, Mahrez and Alvarez, for the double. Felt they'd get good minutes, which they duly did across the two games. But my real hero, if you remember a few weeks ago, I thought I'd made a massive mistake. But my real hero was Evan Ferguson. He came in with you didn't think I should play him even. You were telling me to play Isak and that I shouldn't start him. And I thought, no, I've got to play Ferguson. He's a 1% differential. And he came in with a brace in the first game. That was fantastic.
I'm going to disagree with you, Rich. I don't think he is your real hero. I think your real hero is Matoma. because
I
you benched him. And how many chances
got
did he
away with murder.
Plus he set up your boy Ferguson, but I've never seen. I mean, I think he got over 2 XG in the 2 games, but
he did. I got away with.
He scored a try in the second game, didn't he?
I know.
You see that?
He did. I mean, the chances he had, I couldn't, but I had to bench someone based on the the Hail Mary, and I thought, oh look, I tried to second guess him getting a rest, and he played the full game, both games, didn't he? I think he played. He hasn't had a rest for ages, so perhaps he gets a rest on the last day. But yeah, second guessing De Zerbi.
It's amazing how these things come round. Like, good short-term shouts turn out to be not so good longer term, and then short-term shouts which you think, oh, it's a failure, you just leave it a couple of weeks and then it comes in, doesn't it? So richly deserved, Rich, excuse the pun, but richly deserved, because you've had a tough few weeks. You haven't had the the roll of the dice or the rub of the green or whatever you want to say. Yeah. So I was
looking back at I haven't owned a Stupin and a Tall. I haven't owned Wilson at all. I think those two players alone adds up to 65 points over the last couple of weeks of difference. So it's been really hard to hang around the top 10k. But going into Sunday now, I'm 1 point off the top 10k. So I think
will that be a 9th or a 10th
together, mate? So yeah. I'm going to rely on you for support as I go through my emotional roller coaster on Sunday. So.
Is that your 9th or 10th top 10k finish, Rich? Will it be?
If I make it, it'll be the 9th.
The 9th, yeah. Superb. We're also with Paul McNulty, Rich, on Sunday, who I don't think you've met, but could potentially be on the verge of winning Sky Fantasy for 50 grand. Wow. So it's going to be a very, very emotional couple of hours on Sunday all around. I think it's going to be absolutely superb.
Have you got a chance of that, Fergie?
No, I'm 23rd or something now, so I haven't got a chance. Right. I'm still in cash leagues and stuff, but yeah. Anyway, onto my team. A disappointing 63. Bench Trippier, bench Botman, played Dunk, played Isaac. Didn't quite work out. Another red arrow. I need to change my game up next season. I've been saying all season. I think I've been playing out. I've been saying for the last 3 seasons. I've been stuck in between like 100k and 300k all season for 3 seasons, and I just need to play a bit differently. So I'll be thinking long and hard over the summer about whether I try and play it really seriously, but I don't tend to enjoy it as much. And I know that may sound a bit thin, but I don't tend to enjoy just going with the template and do what everyone else does. Or I just go with just basically a season of Fergie as a punt, and I just enjoy looking for the points that no one else is going to get each week. So I need to have a think over the summer, but I'm pretty bored of being this rank between like 100k and 300k. I need to either go for it and enjoy it, or really, really take it seriously, like I kind of used to. So, but
can I ask you a question, Fergie?
Yeah.
It seems like, and I don't know when reflecting on the season, but it seems like your fortunes, you had the big downturn with going for the free hit, and maybe there was a bit of a knock-on effect from that, which would, I think, as soon as you played it, you had to commit to your plans and strategy, which made it difficult. Do you think that's fair to say, or do you?
Maybe, but I don't. I also don't think I've benched so many points these last few weeks, which are like. But I think if I'd have had the point, if I'd have gone Trippier over Isaac or Trippier over Dunk, would I be really satisfied? So I don't know. I need to kind of assess the way I play the game and what will make me kind of, really enjoy it again and really is it going hardcore template, or is it just try and do something a bit different, or I could just follow the hub algorithm next year, which is going to be insane, and go that way. I don't know. I'll have to have a think.
I think you've hit something quite important, maybe one for us to talk about in the build up to next season, but it's about putting yourself in the position to enjoy the game. Because I do see, and I've went through stages, I would say not this season, but previous seasons, where I found the game difficult, challenging, taking over my life too much, all of those things. We recorded a pod on it, actually, didn't we, about obsession, around FPL. And I think this season, I've quite enjoyed it. But more from I think there's things I've consistently done that have helped. And the big one for me, and I get not everybody will commit to this, but is on the Saturdays when all the games are going on. And I try and avoid what's happening in the games. Obviously, if Villa are playing, I'm there. But even then, I try and avoid the other scores, or I don't look at my phone in all of the detail. And I think I almost then get all the information in one hit, and it's usually quite balanced. Whereas before, it was very much, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, I'm sure loads in the community can, but it was very much every time an incident, I'm talking about a yellow card, a shot off target, a big chance missed. What's that doing to the BPS of a certain player? What's happened to my live rank? And I found it exhausting. And I think I've moved, it's quite nice now that even if I watch a match, I deliberately don't have or try not to have my phone within reach. So I'm actually watching and enjoying the match rather than seeing how every single event has impacted my rank or done it. And it makes, I think for me, psychologically, it's had a big impact on how I play the game. So it's not, it's made me less. You start to see things as well, is that when you're catching up with the scores a little bit later in some instances, when there's like a last minute goal, you don't have, and a lot of the time, these last minute goals have been huge rank busters or changes. Yeah. It doesn't impact you in the slightest. If you have a clean sheet wipeout in the 90th minute, when you're looking at the score and it says 3-1, it's 3-1. It doesn't matter if they've scored in the first or that. So these things, and just as you were saying then, I was starting to think about, and I know it's maybe not related to things necessarily your enjoyment, but it's impacted, it's made me enjoy the game more rather than being frustrated with the game, which is something I did suffer from massively.
I'm definitely not. I'm not like that anymore. I'm not obsessed with football over the weekend as much as I used to be. I think me as well. I'm not sure if this is a symptom, whether it's just a coincidence, but since COVID season, so the last 3 seasons we've had have all been either COVID related. There's been mass fixture, postponements, rearrangements. This year was the World Cup. We had the Queen's passing and all this, which caused all the kind of rearrangements and stuff. And I think I find it quite difficult to be as engaged when all that is going on, because I feel there's too much luck involved as well. And then when I feel when I feel there's too much luck involved, I kind of I struggle to get motivated to try and put all these hours and hours in when I know really that it's a bit of a crapshoot. And I think we're going to talk about that now a little bit, aren't we, around Game Week 38. Like, this is a prime example now, Game Week 38. Like, if you think of fantasy football across all formats, I think that the skill element should be at least like 50%. Whereas I feel going into Game Week 38 now, the skill element of coming out with a green arrow in Game Week 38 for me is probably about 5 or 10%, and it's purely because the game locks out before we get the lineups. It's just a complete crapshoot. It's just complete luck on who starts and who doesn't, who you've got. Your bench order. Does Salah play? Does Haaland play? Does Mahrez play? Does Edison play? Does Salah? Does any of these play? We have no idea. Do the Brighton players play? Does Callum Wilson play? Does Isaac play? And therefore, you can go in scoring anything from like a 15-point game week to a bloody 100-point game week because we have no idea. And that to me is a bit demotivating in terms of all the engagement to be able to think about my team. And I think because up to pre-COVID, my ranks were reasonably decent. I think my worst rank in like 6 or 7 seasons was like 60k or something. But since that COVID season, it's been climbing up. Maybe a coincidence, but interesting chat anyway. Let's say hello to everyone in the chats. Johnny A is in. Colin Johnston is on about hits. We'll have a chat about hits now. Zoran is in. Says not a good deadline day with 2 keepers out of play, Pope and Ward on 1 free transfer. That's unlucky. Zoran is in. Jan Kalioski. Stephen Wales says, let's get ready to rumble. Bill Canadine says, guessing Ize in. He probably looked at the thumbnail. I'm 1974. Says next season fixtures out on the 15th of June. So much for a summer break. Yeah, that's what.
Oh, you're kidding me. No, you're kidding me.
That's
Really?
like, what's that, like less than 3 weeks away, and we're going to have the fixtures.
Oh, no, that's the worst news I've heard for weeks.
Andrew Savage says, excited for this. Well done to Ferguson. Came in for Rich. Evan Ferguson he's talking about. He's not talking about me. Sokan.
Yeah, that's one bit of good news.
Sokan, hi from the Savage finish, Forest. Joshua is in last of the season, mixed emotions. Please confirm we'll be back stronger in August, lads. We'll be back in August. We'll be back in July. Don't worry. We will be back. Don't worry about that. George Cham is in, says it's Simicast time. For those who haven't seen, Andy Robertson may be out. So Simicast could be, I think like 4.3 million. I think he gets some set pieces as well. So he could be a decent punt for those looking for a defender. Matt Ivy is in. FPL Rubber Ducky says quack quack. Nick Meadows, Russell Skidmore. And loads of others. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We are very, very excited ahead of what's going to be an absolutely crazy game week 38. Let's look at the fixtures. Let's go through the fixtures. Let's talk about the games, who we think is going to play, who's not going to play, who is a punt for each one. Arsenal and Wolves. Rich, I'll come to you first. What's your thinking on this game?
Yeah, I like this fixture. No, cut to the chase. Probably will base my transfer around this fixture. Just think Arsenal, they're going to play freely on the last day. They haven't been great the last couple of weeks, but they've come a clear second to probably the best team in the world, and they've got nothing to be ashamed of at all. I know there's some teasing going on that they've blown the title and stuff. I don't think they've blown the title. I just think they've run out of steam a little bit, and City are just the superior outfit, and I think they'll win comfortably against Wolves. We saw Brighton demolish Wolves 6-0 the other week, or 6-1. And I think we'll probably see 3 or 4 goals from Arsenal in this fixture. I've got a strong feeling about it. But the problem is pinning down the guy that scores the brace. I think someone will double return in this game at least. But is it Odegaard? Is it Saka? Is it Jesus? They're all really good options. Trossard as well, if you're struggling for a bit of cash to make an upgrade, maybe. They're all great options. And I really like this fixture. I think it's, possibly the best of the lot, given some of the rotation that we'll see with the other teams.
I think what you're saying there, Rich, I agree with almost everything. I think from a Wolves perspective first, and I don't know how much has been made of this, but I think there's quite a few issues going on at the moment. So there's obviously the financial fair play issues, and will Lopetegui stay? What's happening there? I think you've got from the game against Everton, I think there's quite a few players that are looking to be moved on. Raul Jimenez is one of them there were a few players denied their last appearance in front of the crowd where he could have easily brought them on. So I'm not sure it's a fully happy camp there. They also don't travel well. So I think that obviously you mentioned the Brighton game. They conceded a lot of chances versus Man United. They haven't been great on the road. So I think it's a really good one to target. There's no pressure on Arsenal at all. So it's probably the first time in a while they're playing without pressure. So that could lead to them not, being a bit more relaxed, or it could lead to, being confident in quite a few goals. My only hesitance with this fixture is, and it's going to be a similar theme throughout the pod, is does Arteta use some of the squad players on the basis that to give them a run out for the end of the season? So like Reece Nelson, for example, they're talking about renewing his contract just before whilst he's going through that process. It could make sense to give him a game.
He always looks really good when he comes on, Reece Nelson.
He
really
does,
good player.
yeah. And I think Nketiah and Jesus, it could be a game to give Nketiah. There's no reason not to. There's nothing banking on it. I don't know if is Vieira fit. I think I must check. Is it? Let's have a look at Arsenal. But I think it could be that I think Odegaard plays, but then it could be he gets less minutes because they want to give Vieira some game time. So to help bed in for next season, give more experience. So I think that's what worries me a little bit about this fixture is if we had the starting 11 and you could see, I'd be, we saw Jesus was starting. We saw, I think Trossard's an option. I think obviously Saka, Odegaard. And I think from a defensive point of view, just because Wolves are so bad away from home scoring, I think there's options all around the field, but it's just that rotation. And I think I can almost say that about every fixture at the moment.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah.
So who would your, so for each fixture we'll have a star player and we'll have a punt. So who is your star player, Rich, in this fixture? Who's the one? Who's your go-to man?
I think he's been a bit quiet recently, but my initial thought is to go with Saka in this one because he's got the penalties. He's got a very high ceiling for points, and will want to give a strong performance on the last day. So I think I'd go Saka. I think I want to play really safe with appearance X minutes. So you go for the captain, you go for Odegaard, and the recent form has been good there. So Saka, if I'm going to pick one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Adam?
For me, I like Odegaard, but I think I'd be more tempted with the forward. But it's again, I've got a feeling Nketiah starts, and I don't know where that's come from. So I would say my punt's Nketiah, and then I think Gabriel Jesus if he starts. So I think that's the position I quite like for this game because they haven't got Martinelli as well, who would have been the option. So I think for me it's one of those.
You've got 2 free transfers, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that perhaps helps because you can move money around more easily with the moves. You could get a midfield and a forward if you really want to go all in on one fixture. So for me, I've stuck with one transfer. So that's maybe I'm just thinking about a midfield sideways move rather than moving money around.
Have you got money for Saka?
Yeah.
Like what would it be, like Bruno to Saka?
I'd just have to do Mahrez to Saka or something.
Oh, okay, cool. I think Saka starts. I'd be surprised if he didn't, but there's a couple of others that I'm unsure whether they do or not. So yeah, it's tough. I don't know how confident I would be of making moves for Arsenal players without the leaks, and that says something because I think most people will assume that all of their players are nailed. But it's not going to impact league because it doesn't impact anything, does it really, other than finishing the season well?
I'm going to go for Odegaard as the best pick, and I'm going to go for Trossard as the punt. I know he hasn't returned much recently, but in terms of low ownership and attacking intent and stuff, I think it'd be really good. Adam, do you want to kick us off with Villa and Brighton? How would you expect this game to go?
Okay. I think Villa win this game, and I think this is probably the game where I think the home fans will be the best. And I'm being biased here, but if you hear me out here, I think Villa's home crowd will be the most motivated and vocal this weekend because if you think with Everton and Leeds, 2 great sets of fans, when you're playing for relegation, and particularly in Leeds' hands, it's not in their hands. I think with Everton, we've known about the issues with the board and the other issues as well. I think with Villa, there's a lot of excitement. I mean, going for the UEFA, going for the Conference League and having European nights at Villa Park is a huge deal to the fans. It's a huge deal to Unai Emery. It's a huge deal to the players, most of whom haven't played in Europe. Brighton have played a lot of matches. This game means nothing.
They must be
them.
Absolutely exhausted. They have played non-stop for weeks, haven't they?
Exactly. And as well as they've played in matches, they are beatable. You've seen what Everton have done to them, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. And Villa have only conceded, they've won the last 6 out of 6 at home. They've only conceded 1 goal, which was a penalty from Kane. So I think, and Villa have actually done quite well against Brighton under Potter, and even he beat De Zerbi's Brighton in his second game. So there could be times where we don't have as much possession and we defend well, but I back us to do it. In terms of the players to look at, I think this is tough. It's a real tough one as to who to look at. I think I'd be nervous going for a defender because Brighton do create chances and they're capable of scoring. So I probably would rule that out. Although they have been vulnerable from set pieces, so like a Mings could do okay. I think there's 3 options that I like attacking wise. I think I like Ollie Watkins. He's not scored in a while. He missed a penalty last week. Not really selling him here, am I? But he's our main man, and I think he will. I back Ollie Watkins to get something, and I think there's 2 other players budget dependent. I think you've got Jacob Ramsey, who has got 7 returns in the last 11 matches.
Nice player,
He's done really well at home.
Yeah.
His timing
What's
of
his
his
price?
runs,
What's his price?
5.2, so he's a cheaper version than the likes of Eze, etc. He's he bursts into the box, so he times his runs well. But the thing I like about him, which is it's not really mentioned about him too much, but he's a really, really good finisher in my opinion. So if I look back at a lot of his goals, they've been really assured finishes with both feet as well. He's very good with both feet. So I really like Jacob Ramsey. But if you want to do something a little bit different, Douglas Luiz has got avenues to points in multiple ways. I mean, this season he scored from corners. He scored a direct free kick. He's got the creativity. He's been named fans player and players player of the year. He's been absolutely outstanding, and he's got a goal in him as well. So I think over the season he's got something like 12 attacking returns in 36, 37 matches. So 1 in 3 isn't terrible. So, but we said Brighton have some vulnerability from crosses and set pieces. He's going to be on a lot of those. So they're the ones I like. I think Brighton's a tougher one because we just don't know who's going to play. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record with talking through the matches, but
I keep saying Matoma's going to get a rest, but he just doesn't seem to get one, does he?
Yeah,
well, he doesn't. Yeah. It's mad. So Matoma's minutes. I mean, looking at it before coming on air, I think the only match he hasn't in the since game week 29 where he hasn't played pretty much the full 90 is the Wolves game, and he came on and played 34 minutes, and I think he played 88 minutes against Southampton. This could be a positive in the sense that most people think, well, he's got to have his rest now. But when you listen to De Zerbi in his press conferences, he will say, he refers to McAllister and a couple of the other players, they can't play the full 90 or they struggle. So, when I think when we're looking at footballers, a lot of the time they'll look at who's in the red zone or who, from a physicality point, can't do it. What this says to me is that the physicality of Matoma is actually quite good. And
well, it's the same with Estupinan, isn't it? Everyone thought he was going to be rested or rotated, and it's turned out to be exactly the same way. It's just his recovery is obviously excellent, and he starts the next game.
I remember in the international break, just for game week 29 or game week 30, he was going away and flying over the world, and everyone was a bit unsure if he was going to come back and play. I think he's played every minute since.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that's why I know a lot of people will say, well, I'll sell McAllister instead of Matoma. I'm not sure I buy into the theory. And I think with Solly March out as well, that's one less wide player. So I don't think I'm going to sell any of the Brighton players. And there is a bit of a bias in here. So you should, because I know if I sell McAllister, what is going to happen on Sunday?
Going to get a penalty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's not a chance. If I sell Matoma, he's actually going to score. He's going to get his 3 big chances and actually put one away. So I'm reluctant to do it. I think, do I bring in a Villa player? I might do. But for me, and this is where I suppose the emotional thing comes in. Villa win, I do not care who scored. I'd really, so Ollie Watkins gets a hat trick. It pretty much is going to cement this in Europe. So I don't know if I want to. There's enough on this game for me already. So I'm tempted.
Have you got Isak at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should Isak to Watkins is an easy move, isn't it?
But it isn't though. That isn't. I don't think, because
the way to Chelsea, I think Isak definitely started.
But that's what we saw. What Chelsea have given. I mean, they were hopeless again in terms from a defensive point of view against Man United. But it's I sort of take your point, Rich, because it was something I've been considering. It does look quite an obvious move on paper. It looks an obvious move if the rest of your team are starting. Whereas Isak, I would probably argue, after Salah and Trent, I would say he's probably, as given some of the injuries they've got, he's probably likely to start. So, whereas I look at some of my others, the Man United have just played last night.
Yeah.
Shaw's not playing. Does Rashford play? Does Bruno play? You look at Man City, who knows? It's Brighton. We've already talked about. So it's really, really tough. So I think I'm going to have a plan where we have no leaks, and then a plan for every single player in my team not starting.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna have to do.
Rich, what's your thoughts on your pick in that game and your punt in that game?
Okay, well, I think I'm going to have to stick Ferguson in my starting 11, aren't I? Because he got rested, or he sat out the City game, came on for the last 20 minutes, obviously scored a brace against Southampton. So if he's being rotated with Welbeck, then he should start Villa, and I'll probably bank on him starting. And that at least gives me one person I can be confident gets a start. No idea on McAllister and Mitoma. I tried to second guess the Mitoma rest, and as we said before the show, I think I got away with murder there on the Mitoma chances and the XG he put up, but I had him on my bench and he only scored 7 points across the two fixtures, so I got away with one there. He could play again, and he does look the most threatening player. So McAllister, difficult one to guess. I mean, he could have a big transfer pending. He's probably going to go to a big club. So do they wrap him in cotton wool because they're going to get 100 million for him or 80 million or something silly? So I don't know. But again, it will be, what's the plan for getting rid of it? Obviously, there are some very cheap sideways move options. You've mentioned Ramsey as an option. You can move him to Eze. You can move him to Dwight McNeil. There's 5.5 million options that have really good fixtures this week. So if you need to make a quick decision on Sunday and you hear McAllister or Mitoma isn't playing, then that's an easy move to make in one transfer. So I think Ferguson's most likely to start out of the three of them. And then if I've got to bench one, which I'll probably have to again, I probably will bench McAllister because of Mitoma's threat. And then if he sits it out, hopefully I get some bench points.
Brentford, Man City, Haaland. The Fantasy Football Hub transfer AI has recommended for me this week that I transfer Haaland out for Harry Kane, purely based on expected minutes. Obviously, we don't know if Haaland starts. If he does start, I think it's probably unlikely to say that he get 90 minutes, even though I suppose we could have said that midweek when he got a fair few. What are your thoughts on Haaland firstly, Rich?
Yeah, this is one where we're all hoping for a leak, isn't it? And we've had City leaks quite regularly in all these double game weeks recently. So chances of getting a leak or a rumoured leak in the last half an hour before deadline are very high. And for those sitting on one transfer, it's probably quite difficult to get to Harry Kane this week. So it's such an easy option if Haaland isn't starting to drop him down to Kane. Plus the extra cash might enable another move. So I really like it as an option. And I think if there is a leak, that will be the move that I make over the Arsenal transfer that I mentioned earlier. So I think with having Alvarez already there, it's actually quite a nice position because I've still got the City fixture covered if Haaland doesn't start, and it makes it easier to sell for Kane with Haaland and Mahrez in the ranks there. So doesn't worry me so much about attacking returns. I think if you haven't got any City cover whatsoever, likelihood is that Pep probably uses this as a bit of a cup final rehearsal maybe, and puts a very strong team out with Grealish and Silva and that in it. So if I was going to say, is Haaland going to start? I'd say yes, but probably he's not a captaincy option so much because of he'll get taken off. He won't get 90 minutes in this one. He got 90 minutes against Brighton.
And Brentford are not the easiest. Brentford away is not the easiest match either, is it? Adam, thoughts on this match?
I have no idea what sort of team's going to be put out because I can see the benefits of both. Almost like Pep seeing it as a little bit of a break for his players versus a tune up for the finals. Um,
Do you think Ederson plays?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't call that. And because you think Ortega probably starts the FA Cup final.
I've got
I
a
don't
mate
know.
I've got a mate who's a City season ticket holder, and I asked him about this because I was still considering buying Ederson last weekend, and I tapped him up for who he thought would play the cup final, and he was 99.5% sure that Ortega gets the cup final because he's played in every single cup final or cup round so far, and that he is the cup keeper. So based on that, you'd probably think Ederson does get the last league game, to answer your question, Fergie, because
in preparation for the Champions League final.
Ortega's going to play the cup final because he deserves it. Yeah, and he gets a game ready for the Champions League. So I think it's Ederson, Ortega, Ederson for the last three City games, based on what my season ticket holder friend says.
Yeah, I could see that.
If you were taking a punt this week in this match, who would it be?
Okay,
Adam?
Mbeumo or Mbeumo would be mine.
Nice. Rich?
Yeah, I'd go. Was it Wissa? It's probably another one to
Yeah,
mention.
yeah,
That's probably really, really left field. But
yeah, it's just impossible one to call this week, isn't it? I do think that he probably plays a strong team, a very strong team, and I think with that in mind, I'll go for Grealish. I know he hasn't. He's got to have a game.
Grealish, he'll still be out on the piss.
Do you think?
do
you honestly think
he
won't be fine by Sunday? That's optimistic.
Do you think he won't play on Sunday? Do you think he's just done now until like the FA Cup?
I don't know.
I'll go for Grealish. Though
he's the hardest one to rein back in, I think.
I would say the Foden has been absolutely superb the last few games. He's
looked good, hasn't he? He's looked good.
I've got a question before we move on. I've got a question for you on this, and it might affect quite a few teams. Would you play Raya against City, or would you play Arrizabalaga against Newcastle?
What a crap!
So that's
what a crap question.
Very, very popular but awful goalkeeper combination for the last week. So
for me, easy. I would play Raya without question. I think he's
save points.
And he's been so consistent, and even in the matches where you don't think he's going to get points, he's coming away with 4 points. We've got to remember as well, whilst the match isn't important for City, it is important for Brentford. So they can get into Europe. So I don't think they'll be I think Brentford will fancy this, and I think they'll try and make it difficult for City. I think Chelsea are all over the place. Kepa may not play firstly. I mean, I suppose that doesn't matter too much from that perspective, but I just think Chelsea, they're like, I think they're lucky that the season hasn't got another 4 or 5 matches. Otherwise, they'd be in relegation trouble. Yeah, there would be. They're that bad.
Speaking of them, Chelsea, Newcastle, we can probably avoid Chelsea. What do we expect from Wilson? I see Joe Linton is out, isn't he? And there's a couple of others out. Do you expect Wilson and Isaac both to play, or do you think Isaac gets the start? Or
I think Wilson will play purely because, and this is I don't know if you listen to the Footballers Football podcast, but he's talked about, I think he's on 18 goals this season.
He wants to go past Tony, doesn't he?
He wants to get 20. I think he's talked about. He set his target as 20, and I think he's in the England squad. I don't think there's any huge risk. So I think Eddie Howe will play him, which means Isak's wide again at best. He may not start. So
what a disaster he's been.
Exactly. He's the only good thing about him is he allowed me to play Trippier over him last week, so he gets some kudos for that. But yeah, it's a hard one to call this fixture because I just think I think Newcastle have got quite a few players out, including Nick Pope, and I think in midfield they're quite light, and Chelsea just look all over the place.
Yeah.
So
hard to get excited. I think it's probably a case of just stick with what you've got and don't buy, don't sell, is it?
Do you start Trippier in this one? You probably.
I think I might end up starting Botman as well.
I would.
Because, true.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Zula Badger said Wilson's record for scoring against Chelsea is really good as well. So I think it's probably a case of playing Newcastle players, but don't buy, don't sell. Start Isaac.
I can't get excited by that. I think when we talk about hits, it might be worth going on to that concept. Wow, yeah, he deserves that.
Palace and Forest. Eze has been a name on many people's lips this week in the England squad. What a footballer. Absolutely superb recent performances. He is my other recommended transfer for this week, taking out Martinelli for Eze. Thoughts, Rich, on this one?
Yeah, nice transfer. I think he'll probably appeal to managers who've got 2 free transfers, maybe more than one. I think if you've only got one precious transfer, you're probably thinking, how can I use that on a real high ceiling premium player? But, do I really want to use it on a 5.7 million option? Swapping him out for another 5.5 million option who could do equally well, So I nearly bought him the other week, but I just couldn't quite bring myself to buy a Palace player. And in the end, he blanked in the week that everyone was buying Palace players in. However, Forest, are another example of an on-the-beach team. They've achieved their objective. They've stayed up. They've partied, and they couldn't. I've made this comment in my article. They couldn't win away when they needed to, could they? So what are they going to be like when they don't? So
Jack Cheers out on Sunday in the sun.
Exactly. So I think Palace are going to win this game comfortably, and it is a nice option to look at.
Edouard, Adam.
I think it's an option. I think just to expand on Rich's point there, I think you fancy Palace. I think Roy Hodgson has got quite a good record as well, particularly against lower level teams. So I think they'll do. I think Palace will win. The only I suppose defense for Forest is that they've been playing under a lot of pressure recently. So the first game in a while, they can just go out and enjoy. And if again, we don't know what sort of team he'll be putting out, but I could see this game being a bit of a goal fest, like a 4-3 or a 4-2. I could see both teams scoring. So someone like Gibbs White.
I was just going to say what a player he is. He is going to be in my team next year. He's been brilliant. He is absolutely superb.
Yeah, he's really, particularly over the relegation battle. I think he's looked good. And we've got Awoniyi as well, whatever his name is. He's looked exceptional. 5.6 million. Again, you just don't know. It could given their squad size and the amount of signings, it could be let's give some of them a go. And so, whilst I'm confident Eze starts, that I think that's what makes me appeal. That's one of the things that I quite like about Eze. I think Roy, he'll play his strongest team. They're well rested. They've had nothing to play for really for a while, so I've got a bit of confidence that teams like them, Fulham, etc., where they've been they've been able to play quite freely without pressure for some time. So I've got confidence that we'll see a strong lineup from Palace. So if I was making a transfer, based on exactly what I know now, he players like him and Jacob Ramsey would be quite high up on my radar because they're going to play.
There are 3 games this weekend, which are the next 3, which will decide the fate of one team down to the Championship. First up, Everton and Bournemouth. Tough to buy any of their players, potentially. Rich, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Everton are possibly have the best fixture of the 3 relegating threatened teams. So for that reason, you would expect them to, grind out a win or grind out. Do they need a point or do they need to win?
They need to win. They need to better. They need to better Leeds, and
so they've got to get a win. I think their defensive assets appeal slightly more than their attacking assets. So let's say we hear that Luke Shaw isn't going to play. It sounds to me like he isn't. He's going to be kept out for the final. and you're sitting on, like me, you're sitting on Rico Henry or Sven Botman to come in for the last day. It doesn't feel great, does it? So you might want to go for a James Tarkowski or Yerry Mina, as a bit of an enabling move to free some cash, or if you've got 2 free transfers, I think an Everton defender wouldn't be bad. I don't really want to take a hit for one.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll pay back. Jordan Pickford as well. If you've got a sort of fairly disastrous goalkeeping combination as well.
Like
Pickford
Raya
at
and Kappa.
4.4 probably looks pick of the keepers. Yeah, exactly. Pick of the keepers. So yeah, I do like them. The other one I'm just slightly thinking of is that I've got a bit of a Hail Mary combination. If we do hear there's mass rotation, I can do Bruno Fernandes to Dwight McNeil and Julian Alvarez to Harry Kane, and I quite like that as a combination. If I've got 7 or 8 players playing or something, I might have to take a hit to do that, and I quite like as an option. McNeil's 5.1. I think he becomes a better option if it's Mikalenko is going to play, because McNeil has been playing at fullback, so. Just check on the team news there. But yeah, I like McNeil. He destroyed Brighton, didn't he? So well, do it again.
I think with a big plus for McNeil is Bournemouth, I think, when I watched them at Villa Park and they were equally as bad against West Ham, is defending crosses. So McNeil, you'd expect from set pieces to put a lot in the box, and that's a big plus as well for the Everton defenders, whether you're looking at Yerry Mina, Tarkowski, etc. So I think there's definite merit in looking at Everton. They've got nothing to play for. They don't score freely, Bournemouth, either. So I can see particularly I like the defensive picks more. My concerns with McNeil is I think the game will be quite a tight and cagey game. And I think that you could see the fans get on their back. I think for a similar price, I prefer Jacob Ramsey. Just because I think you're looking more like from the set piece threat versus the open play threat, and but I'd sort of take Rich's point. I think if he's playing further forward, that's so if Mikalenko's fit, it increases his appeal a lot as well.
Leeds and Spurs. Everyone immediately looks at Harry Kane. Spurs have been awful. Leeds have to win. All the options from this game, I would say, spoiler alert, maybe for Fergie's a punt, but I have got someone from this game. Rich, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think Spurs will win it. Although I did hear on, I think it was Clash of the Correspondents, Spurs haven't won an away game since October. That's quite hard to believe, isn't it, for a team that was challenging for top 4 till recently. So I think that Kane will score. He scores every week. That's not a miracle prediction there. But the other thing is Leeds do have to win the game. I mean, they're playing for their lives here. So I do think it's a fixture that you can avoid going to. If you're going to punt a Leeds player, I'd probably think Rodrigo is the best one to go for.
Agreed, yeah.
Probably likely to start up front and, seems to be the most motivated out of all of them. But yeah, Kane's very much on my mind. I think the only way I'll use my one solitary transfer on Kane will be if I hear that Haaland isn't starting. Don't think I'll take a hit to get to him. The McNeil thing is attractive, but I probably won't minus for it.
Adam, anything on this game?
The only I think Rodrigo, I think you can make a case for. I've heard a few people mention Son, but I think when you look at Harry Kane and particularly his record in the at the end of the season is pretty good as well in the last matches. But I'm just looking at it now since game week. I think he's got. They say something he scored in the most number of Premier League games. He's broke a record, hasn't he? Scored in 25 different Premier League games or something. So he's always good for a return. But since game week 27, I don't know how many games this is. What, about maybe 11 games? The only match he didn't return in is Bournemouth away.
Wow. So
Bournemouth at home. Yeah. Bournemouth at home, which is probably the one that people were thinking is the gimmick there. But he's just incredible. So he's looking back at his record. He's got 7, 7, 8, 8, 11, 6. Then he got the 2, 9, 7, 6, 13. So I think if Haaland doesn't start, it's an easy move to Kane. Particularly as Brentford have got something to play for, so they're going to make it difficult for City. I'm eyeing up. I mean, if Bruno doesn't start, and again, I'm relying on team news here, but I can do Bruno and Isak to Kane and Eze, which I quite like. And I might even then take a further hit, but based on but it depends on team leaks.
Leicester, West Ham. This is going to be, I don't know what to say, an interesting game. West Ham have obviously massively improved. Leicester showed a lot of defiance on, was it Monday night against Newcastle? Never expected Newcastle to roll over them. Hard to get excited probably about either team's players. Adam, have you got your eye on anyone or no?
Well, I've got a decision to make actually. So whether I start Everton or Edson, I think that's actually quite a tough call because I think there's
good at home.
Yeah, and I think there's more upside in Everton as well, as we saw against Newcastle. Yeah. I think probably both teams concede anyway, so I don't think there'll be loads in it. And of course, Edison may not start. But it's something Dean Smith said interested me after the Newcastle game. He was talking about, because he didn't start Maddison or Barnes, and he was saying even against West Ham we're going to have to keep it tight because they like to counter. So they could again have a similar approach where they, because I think just checking it, they're on the same. They're in a slightly different. Leeds need to win, but they need. I'm just checking out the goal difference, how much there is in it, but it looks like they need Leicester and Everton to both slip up. Everton, I don't know. I don't think it's impossible that Leicester stay up. I don't, because I think they could sneak a 1-0 win against West Ham or keep it tight, and I think the Everton crowd could get on the back of the team, which is understandable. If they don't go ahead or if they go behind. So, yeah, I think there are options to look at in this game. I think a lot of people are considering West Ham options. I'm not sure because I think Bowen away from home has always been questionable for me.
I think with the state of play with the games, it's not like a normal match, is it?
No, and Leicester, everything. I mean, the flip side to it is if Everton go 2 or 3-0 up, of course, that could lead to a collapse, and but we're not going to know that, are we? So for me, I'm happy to leave this fixture alone.
Yeah, same. Rich, any excitement for this fixture?
It's not where I won't be where I'm going, but no, I think. If you want a really, ultimate punt, you could look at Maddison, as being someone that could have a very high ceiling, and you won't have anybody else around you probably making that move. So if you really are 30, 40, 50 points behind your target and you need a massive differential captain to get you up there, then, that's the sort of option you could go for. But I don't like Leicester just haven't been good enough to really put 3 or 4 past someone. I think they could win the game, but ultimately I think they'll still go down. I think I've got a feeling Everton will survive just because of their home record and the opponent. I just think they'll do it. But Leicester will be right. And actually, I do remember seeing that Smith was heavily criticised about resting Maddison and Vardy, wasn't it, against Newcastle? But he ground out a point. He was lucky, but he ground out a point, and that now has put them in a position where if they win their last home game and other results go their way, they will stay up. But if they played really openly against Newcastle, they would have been dinged, wouldn't they? They would have been absolutely dinged. So you've got to give him some credit for that.
And speaking of players again, to maybe look ahead of next season, that Paquetá looks an absolute baller, doesn't he? He's going to be interesting ahead next year. United and Fulham. Interesting match in the chat. Where was it? Yun says, if Maguire starts, I'm punting on Mitrovic, which I thought was quite good. But,
I like that.
He probably will start, won't he, Maguire? I should think he's very likely to rest the central defenders, isn't he?
You'd have thought it's interesting. So, some have got De Gea, some have got a Luke Shaw who came off. I think Shaw may have had like a slight back issue. I'd be amazed if he risked him, ahead of the FA Cup. Do we think Rashford and Bruno start, or do you think
this is where I need your help? This is where I need your help, guys. It was terrifying yesterday. I didn't watch the game. I listened to it on the radio. I was traveling, and basically not owning Rashford. It's like one of those players like Salah or Haaland, and if you don't own him, it's every 30 seconds he gets a chance. I mean, okay, it was playing against Chelsea or a poor side and stuff like that, but actually the ownership of Rashford is huge. But was getting 75, 80 minutes last night enough to now mean that he takes Bruno and Rashford out of the starting lineup in a dead rubber because he absolutely has to have them in tip-top condition to beat City? I think there's a fairly high chance he rests them both, don't you?
Wow. I think if I could have one team leak the weekend, it'd be the Man United one over all others, because I just don't know. And Bruno never gets injured. He's got, he plays pretty much every game. He's got really high levels of fitness. Rashford's, it could be argued maybe does he need that extra game for match fitness and sharpness? I don't know.
I think if the game was midweek, I don't think he'd play. But the fact that it's 7 days later, or 6 days later, I get the feeling that I don't think we'll see as much rotation as we may think. If it was a few days later, I think we would. But 6 days, and then the Champions League for City is another week after that again. This is a.
Do you think
gaps.
Bruno and Rashford start then?
I think so.
Yeah, I think Shaw misses out because I think
Shaw misses out.
Silly to miss.
Any kind of
silly to risk Shaw.
Exactly. Cedric in the chat says Garnacho as a punt, which I think could be quite a lively one because he looks a really good player as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I do like that punt.
It does. Yeah, that's a proper punt.
Yeah, I think this is where the team leaks will be useful. Is if we know, because I think if we're looking at it, United is one that we usually get an indication, hopefully fairly early on as well. Yeah. But I think if we see the likes of Bruno and Rashford benched, it could be worth moving both on.
Southampton Liverpool, the final game in our preview. Tough to look at any Southampton players. We could chuck in James Ward-Prowse just for hygiene's sake, but not really. Liverpool, Klopp hinted this morning in his press conference that he's going to give some fresh legs a run out. I think to paraphrase, what do we think that means for the key assets? Salah, Trent.
I think probably means Nunes is going to get a game.
But his legs aren't very fresh, are they? But well, they're fresh from not playing. Exactly. What do you think that means for Liverpool?
No idea. It could be anything. Trent could get rest. There's rumours Robertson's got an injury. I think Klopp mentioned that. So honestly, don't know. I would like to think that Salah will start. I mean, he's the one I'm most confident in my team starting, and I'm not even 100% he will, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's on 19 goals for the season, so you'd hope that he's eyeing the 20th at least. There could be something.
Do you think that based on what he said, he's come out quite publicly on social media criticising Liverpool's lack of achieving top four and that it's just not good enough and the team has failed? Do you think that's put him in a position to not start the game now? Because it's not exactly a team player comment. I know he's in the heat of the moment.
I think he said it because I saw it as, and this is where I saw it from the opposite perspective. I actually saw Liverpool. I saw it to get on board with Liverpool fans and to say, look, our standard is this high. And I don't think Klopp would have an issue, particularly with Salah saying that. I thought it was quite a positive message. Like, our standards are so high. We should be in the Champions League. We should have done better. We failed you. And that's what, and I I don't think he said it to criticize the players. I actually feel he's done it to react to a fan base he's got a great relationship with.
Okay.
That's
That's
how
reassuring.
that's how I interpreted it. I don't see. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because if Klopp's talking about rotation, Salah's played pretty much every minute or most minutes. Trent could get a break.
Break for what though?
They could all get a break.
A break for what? They haven't got a, you know.
Yeah, but the result has no impact on where they finish in the league, does it? So what does it?
No, that's fair.
What does it matter? I don't think there's nothing on this fixture, is there at all? So
just about 10 million people wanting some fantasy points, really, is all.
Exactly, and I don't think exactly. Yeah. It's it's a tough one to predict. I think on Liverpool though, they're probably the best team for getting early team news. So, I mean, imagine if we find out Trent and Salah are benched. We could actually, I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that my entire starting 11 could be benched the weekend. Probably the same for most people in here. It wouldn't be given that actually they're the teams that have played midweek, have got nothing to play for.
What would you in that night? Let's imagine that nightmare scenario. Now I'm going to be stood in the middle of a pub when this is this is going on. And so what do you do if you find out you've only got 4 or 5 starters? And do you suddenly start making 4 or 5 hits
minus 16
to get a start on the last day just to get a side out or approaching a side out? I mean,
do you know what? It's a great discussion, right? I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I think if we're certain and we're fairly confident they're not starting, I think there's upside in making moves.
I do for attacking players. I don't think I would for defenders because there's so many goals scored.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. I think, and I think particularly for you just want to be confident that the player you're bringing in starts. I think so. For someone like Jacob Ramsey, I mean, he's averaging, I don't know what he's averaging per game, but taking extra hits for someone like him may not be worth it because you could get, like, say, Rashford could come on and get 10, 15 minutes and still do damage. So it's I think I would only take hits for players that I think have got a high ceiling. That's probably where I'm at. But I think there's a lot of players that do have high ceiling this week. You got to remember as well, Salah on the bench. There's been quite a few times he's come off the bench, but in FPL history, he's come off the bench.
Against Crystal Palace when he came off and got
he did again. I'm pretty sure. He's done it. He's done it a few times. So it's a bit risky. Like, we could all sell Haaland. He could come off the bench and get a brace. It wouldn't be
exactly. So I think if you're going to take it, you said if you take a hit for a player with a high ceiling, that's fine. But if you're going to take a hit, make sure the play you've also got confirmation that the player you're buying is going to start, right? So it's worse than taking a hit for someone who then doesn't start as well. Is there really? That would just be a disaster, wouldn't it? So oh my God, what are we in for on Sunday?
But I think the only thing I would say, just to level up the conversation, is that most of the players you're competing with, there's a lot of similar teams out there. There's high effective ownership for a certain group of players. So everybody is going to be in this position. And I think this is why I feel a bit uneasy and uncomfortable about the team leagues. And of course, I will try and take advantage of it because I don't want to be disadvantaged myself. But I just don't think, I think it's really, really unfair. Because I think in this week in particular, in most weeks, it impacts one fixture. So one fixture, you can say it has a small percentage impact on the game week. This game week, it impacts all fixtures. We could all have 5, 6, 7 players not starting. So imagine the person that can't get in because of the, and
Wi-Fi.
make the changes. So doesn't have access to Wi-Fi. It doesn't, they're not up, because of where they live in the world. It could be that, that only certain people can actually get access to the servers and get in. So I think the variance for this week could be higher than just picking the right players. It could be getting into FPL, getting the leaks on time, and and these to me seem like unfair advantages. They're not skill, are they?
Oh,
They're
No.
so I feel a bit uneasy and uncomfortable with this, and I think next season I would be all for. I think that the most sensible thing to do is do what Sky do first kick off, keep
Absolutely.
it simple, and I think that way, people are reacting to information rather than leaks and all of that.
Great.
Let's look at the captain for this week. Obviously, we can discuss team if we don't know, right? So, completely objectively, if all the main protagonists are fit this week and start this week, Rich, who would be your captain ahead of game week 38?
I think I'd agree with the table. I think if I owned him, I'd put it on Kane this week just because of his reliability. I mean, it also depends on what your personal goal is, right? I need to gain a 2% green arrow to get in the top 10k. I don't need a massive haul. I just need my captain to score.
He's going to score.
So,
you guess he's going to score against Leeds.
Exactly. So I would just say I want a safe captain that I can rely on. I don't think you can rely on anyone more than Harry Kane. Even Salah is less reliable than Kane.
It could maybe be his last ever game for Spurs as well.
Exactly, but I own Salah, so that's not what you're saying to me. It's not who are you captain. You're asking me who I think the best.
Yeah, who's the best
is.
captain?
And I think the most reliable one in this week is Kane.
Okay, and yourself, Adam? If everyone starts,
I would say, okay, looking at this, then where could I see the biggest possible scores? Because we do see them in the. I don't think Leeds and Spurs will be high scoring. I think there's too much on it, and they're playing a big Sam team as well. So I think, and I watched Spurs play Villa, and they didn't have a shot the first half. So you've got to bear in mind Spurs are pretty rubbish at the moment, particularly away from home. So that pushes me away from Harry Kane. I think Liverpool versus Southampton. Liverpool can, again, they can just go in there and providing he puts out a fairly decent team, I could see that being quite a comfortable win. I think going back right to the start at the Emirates, I could see that being a comfortable win. So maybe going for something like a Saka or a Jesus or something on that. I quite like that as a captaincy punt because I can see Wolves getting thrashed. And it's a bit of a gamble because who's gonna get the goals, but I do like that. Yeah, I think. At the moment, I'm on Salah, but
me too.
I think what I would say, I think this is a great week to take a punt on captaincy if you are not where you want to be, because there's no more weeks after this. Bit of wisdom there.
I quite like the Eze shout. I quite like the Eze shout.
I like the Eze shout. I really like the Eze shout.
He's brace material, isn't he?
And he gets a goal. His goals are worth not, he gets bonus every time he scores. So I like the Eze shout as well. But I think this is the week for me. You might remember this. Maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago. Remember that Liverpool were at home and they, I think they won 2-0 and Mane got both the goals.
Yeah.
And a lot of people bought Mane in, and I bought him in, I really regret it. And I regretted not captaining him because I think I finished about 10 points behind you, Fergie. But if I'd have done it,
I remember that.
I just wasn't prepared. I don't know why.
We all had it on Salah, didn't we? And
exactly.
Mane
but Mane was on fire at the time as well, so it wasn't really a surprise. Everyone was bringing him in, but I think because everyone holds Salah in such high regard, and I think he got an assist that day. But so that was I think it was like a 10-point swing. So I think this week, I think the captaincy will be quite spread. I think it's worth. I think this is the one to take a punt, take a risk. Unless you're really, and even if you're consolidating, I don't know if there'll be one captain that everybody will go to. So I think just go for it this week would be my advice.
Fergie's a punt for game week 38. We briefly touched on him, and this is just a player who every now and then he's a typical 2-2-2-2, 21 2-2-2 sort of player, and this looks to me the kind of fixture where he could do some damage, and it's Heung-min Son. I think he's that kind of player who can turn up in this sort of game. I think he scored 2 against Norwich last game of last season. Okay, the circumstances were a bit different. Norwich were already down. But I do think if you are looking for something this week, if we get news like Salah doesn't play, Bruno doesn't play, I think a move to Son could potentially be... Was it game week 8? He scored a hat-trick just completely out of the blue or something like that. He's that sort of player. So yeah, I think Son. Just before we move on to take a quick look at our teams, just a reminder, Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game. You can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League mini league. If you enter for free, for our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free cards, you'll get a free limited card to enter in your team. We're also now giving away weekly prizes such as Premier League tickets and limited cards. So jump on, have a go, and see what it's all about. The very best of luck. And don't forget, the overall winner gets a pair of Premier League tickets. Go ahead and join in the fun for absolutely free. It's your last chance to do it over the next couple of days. Quick look at our teams. Rich, I've got yours up first. What's your current transfer thinking for this week?
I think I've sent you an image with Saka in place there. So the sort of default plan is to move Mahrez on to Saka purely over. Mahrez started the last 2, may not play the cup final, so I've got a feeling that Mahrez could miss out. And I quite like the more certain start of Saka. Plus he's on pens and a home game, so I think I'm going to play Saka. Oh, you got my team from last week up there. Yeah. Okay. So I'll probably move Mahrez on for Saka if I don't hear any team news. Obviously, I'm going to be ears to the ground trying to pick up any information in that last hour before the deadline, and we'll react accordingly. So if Haaland doesn't start, I'll bring Kane in. If I hear about other rests for Bruno, I might start considering taking a hit to move money around. So really, I'm going to be very reactive on this one, and just try and get a side out. Fortunately, I think I've got a full bench. My only issue is Luke Shaw. I don't think he'll play either now, and I was quite happy with the Shaw, Trent, and Trippier. They're all attacking. I don't expect many clean sheets at all on the last day, so it's all about having attacking returns and bonus potential guys. I think I've got the 3 best guys, but I don't think Shaw will play, so don't want to use my transfer on a defender. I think that's I think that's the wrong thing to do. But so I might be looking at Botman playing against Chelsea, which I'm not looking forward to really. But yeah, that's what I'll do. Hoping Alvarez gets good minutes. I think I'll keep him, and captaincy on Salah for the bus.
Adam, what are your plans for Game Week 38?
My plans are to get to Aston early, make sure secure Wi-Fi, and keep refreshing till we get some leaks. That'll be my plans, and that's until I've got that. I don't know. I mean, I can think moves I can do. So I can do Fernandes and Isak to Eze and Kane. I could do Isak to Watkins, and then maybe downgrade one of the Brighton midfielders to like a Ramsey, go all in on Villa. I could do Isak to Watkins, Shaw to Tarkowski, and gamble on a 15-point header from Tarkowski. So there's a few moves I can do. And I'm not against taking a hit. I'd probably go up to a -8, I think. I'd feel comfortable with. But that's obviously with leaks, knowing that people aren't starting. I think I'd take it, because the way I see that is that I'm gambling upside. I'm spreading my upside across 4 players rather than the 2 I'm bringing in, because I could get the 2 that I'm bringing in wrong easily. So I've got another 2 extra that I'm throwing in. So that's why I'm quite.
I mean, if you're sacrificing appearance points for those hits, they make more sense, don't they? Because if you're not getting the side out, then you've got to take the hits, I think.
Yeah, I think knowing, for me, the Man United one is quite big. I think getting leaks from, it's not really necessarily knowing that players are starting. As much as I would love to know it, it's knowing which ones of my team aren't starting currently, I think, is the big thing. So Pop could have done without saying something about rotation and using his squad, because they were the only 2 players I was half confident with. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I think.
The 2 transfers that the Hub AI. So if you go onto my team on Fantasy footballhub.co.uk and click on AI transfers. Members can see the recommended transfers from your team. Mine says Martinelli to Eze, which I think I might do. Haaland to Kane. I'm not sure on Haaland. Interestedly, Alex just put in the chat. Pepper said he will go as strong as possible against Brentford. Haaland cap might still be the one. That'll be interesting if he does. That also might change Martinelli to Eze if I need a different route to Kane, for example. But it's going to be reacting.
Strong as possible doesn't mean loads, does it? I mean, it means
Haaland. It means Haaland starts. So that's that.
Yeah.
I won't be taking out Haaland for Kane if Haaland starts. It's sort So
no. That's quickest way to get a red arrow. Taking Haaland out if he's starting.
I may really think I do like Odegaard as well. Do like Saka, but I do like Eze as well. So yeah, it's going to be a fumble in the pub. And not the kind you're thinking about, Rich.
Who would you guys start, Edison or Everson? Because I think it's quite close. The expected points say Everson, by the way.
I'd start Everson, I think.
What do you reckon, Fergie?
Yeah, Everson, I think. Yeah, just because they're desperate. I think if Edison plays, I think Brentford score. Personally,
yeah, we're not.
Score.
Yeah, okay, that's probably what I was gonna do.
I think so.
Yeah, cool. I'll go for that then.
Well, that is it from us for this week and also for this season. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined in the chat, those who will watch it back and those listening on the podcast versions. Your support is very much appreciated. Before we go, we would just like to thank every single one of you for tuning in every week, whether you watch it live with us, whether you watch it back or whether you listen. We really appreciate every single one of you and all the interaction and support you give us. So thanks to all for everything that you do to our listeners and watchers. We really, really enjoy this. We do it every week, and we only do it because we really enjoy it because of the interaction, support, and feedback we get. So it's much, much appreciated. Just a reminder, our My Team feature that shares your personalised recommended most optimal transfers every week, specifically for your team using artificial intelligence, is now live on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and it's free for 7 days. If you do want to have that, you can still get it for game week 38. We'll also have some massive offers coming in pre-season. Our My Team tool ahead of next season is going to be absolutely ridiculously amazing. So make sure you join Fantasy Football Hub if you want to win your mini leagues and have a good season. If you want to chat FPL over the summer, we have a Discord server. Link below in the chat. Come in and chat everything fantasy football and throughout the summer. It's absolutely free. Adam, thank you so much for joining us on most of the 38 episodes this season. It's been a cracking year. 25k, very well played again. Where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter at Hopta Stats.
Lovely stuff. Rich, thank you so much. Again, you've been here for nearly every episode. Just before I forget, I'd just like to thank Jan, who has stepped in about kind of 5 or 6 times throughout the season as well, who's been an absolutely superb guest. So thank you, Jan. But thank you, Rich. Where can people get hold of you?
I'm at Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, gents, and hope you both have a fantastic Game Week 38, a fantastic summer. And my handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. This podcast and video is on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We will be back soon in a few weeks. We're going to do a bit of a season review and also a bit of a get-to-know-us pod as well, because we speak to you guys every single week, but probably we're very aware that no one really knows us outside of just chatting on Green Arrow. So we're going to have a bit of a chat, a bit of a meet, get to know a bit more about Rich, Adam, and myself, and have a look back at the season, maybe have a look at some learnings to take into next year, which will be quite exciting. And then we will come back fresh and re-energized with a vengeance ahead of the new season. In the meantime, the very, very best of luck for Game Week 38, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.